quick demo of this video. Inside this Python Django tutorial, we will implement complete Django CRUD operations inside a form containing select, control or drop down. So here we have the final output of this tutorial. First of all, let me show you how you can insert a new record here. If you submit this record, corresponding record will be inserted into the table. If you want to update this record, you can click on this pencil icon here. Let me change this position to senior developer, submit this record. In order to delete an employee, you can click on this trash icon here. So here we have deleted the record. So basically inside this tutorial, we will discuss how to design a form using form model and Bootstrap. And then we will discuss how to show this dropdown using foreign key relation. And most important, we will discuss how to implement all of these complete CRUD operations. So I hope you will find this tutorial helpful for your upcoming Django projects. If you find this video helpful, please thumbs up the video. And for more awesome videos like this, please be subscribed to this channel CodAffection. What's up YouTube? Welcome to CodAffection. In this Python Django tutorial, we will discuss how to implement complete Django CRUD operations inside a form. We have included a dropdown inside the form. Into that control, we have populated records from a foreign key table. Before getting into the topic, I would like to thank for your PayPal donations for my previous works. In order to make more helpful and quality tutorials like this, you can also support me through PayPal donation. I have given the donation link in first comment and video description. So here is my Visual Studio Code editor. I will be using this IDE for the app development. As a first step, we have to create the Django project. For that, here is the folder directory. We want to create the project inside this folder. So as a first step, we have to open the command prompt from this same folder directory. So you can use this shortcut, hold shift, then right click, then click on this open window here. So here we have opened the command prompt from the same folder directory. So here is the command Django-admin, then start project, then name of the project. For this tutorial, we will work with employee details. So I will name this project as employee project. Hit enter. As a result of the command execution, here we have the project folder with the same name. Now let's navigate inside the new folder using cd command. In order to open this project folder inside VS Code editor, you can use this command code space period. Hit enter. So here we have opened the VS Code editor from the same project folder directory. First of all, let's look how this fresh Django project looks like. For that, we have to execute few Django commands. So here is the terminal from the IDE. In order to run this server, you can use this command Python, and we have to mention this file manage.py, then run server. Hit enter. As you can see here, this website is already started from this port number 8000. In order to open this URL, you can use the shortcut, hold control, then click on this URL here. So this is how the fresh Django project looks like. Now back to the IDE. Inside a single Django project, we can have multiple applications for different purposes. For this video tutorial, we want to implement CRUD operations on employee records. For that purpose, I'm going to create a single app called employee register. For that, let me create one more terminal here. In order to create the app, you can execute this command Python manage.py, then start app, and we have to name the app here. I will name it as employee register. So here you can see the folder for new app employee register. Before continuing with this project development, let me show you the structure of the app that we want to build. For that, I will create an extra txt file here, app structure. I have already prepared the Django project structure, so let me paste that structure here. So here we have the project folder, the parent folder, and here we have the project specific folder, employee project, that is here. Inside that we have two main files. For the configuration of project we have setting.py, and for the it is settings.py, and for the routing for the entire project we have urls.py, and here we have the app folder, employee register. We can discuss rest of the folders and Python files in various stages of the app development. Now let's continue with the project development. Since we have created a new application, employee register, we have to mention that inside this project settings.py file here. There you can see this array installed apps. So let's mention that here employee underscore register. Now let's work with database part of this project. As we have already mentioned, for this Django CRUD operations, we will be using PostgresDB. So first of all, we have to create the DB. In my system, I have already installed database management tool for Postgres, which is here pgadmin. So let me open this. Now let's create the DB. I will name this database as employee DB. Newly created database can be seen here, employee DB. Now back to the IDE. We also have to mention the database connection details inside this same project settings file here, which can be done inside this database object default property. Instead of SQLite, we are going to use Postgres. So Postgres SQL. And here we have to provide the name of the database, which is employee DB. Then followed by the credentials to access that DB. First of all, we have user. I have set it as Postgres. Then we have password, which is also Postgres. And finally, we have to set the host. Since we have the database inside this same system, we can set it as localhost. Host is equal to localhost. So these are the configurations which is to be given related to database connection details. Now we have to do the migration. As you know, Django framework already has an ORM which helps the developer to work with database. We just have to define Python class inside the model, and then the ORM will create a physical table corresponding to that Python class. For that, we will be using Django migration. So let's look how we can do that. Inside any Django project, there are some default applications which you can see inside this installed apps array here. Other than this employee register app, you can see there are few apps which already comes with a default Django project. Inside these default apps, there are some Python models associated with user registration, user authentication, etc. So first of all, we have to do the migration in order to create the physical DB corresponding to these default app models. For that, we just need to execute this python manage.py, then just execute this migrate. So here we have successfully executed the migration command. Now let's look what happened inside the PostgresDB. So here we have the database inside schemas. Inside that you can see these 10 tables from our default Django applications. All of these tables are related to user authentication, registration, etc. Inside this tutorial, we are not going to touch any of these tables from our default apps. Let's create few models for our app development. We can define those model classes inside this models.py file here. For this app development, we need two models, one for employee and one for position. So first of all, let's create the model for employee. We have to create the class employee, and we will inherit this class from model class from models namespace. We have to inherit this model class in order to have the Django ORM or model features. Here we can define class properties corresponding to table column which we need. For employee table, we have to have full name, and let's specify the type of this column. For that, we can do this models dot cap field instance can be used. So inside this full name column, we can store strings. We can specify the maximum number of characters using this max length. I will set it as 100. Like this, we have to create 3 more properties. So let me copy this and pasting below that. After full name, we have emp code. Then we have mobile number. And finally, we have the position. And we have to modify the max length property here. For this position property, we have to depend on another table, which is position table. So let's create the corresponding model class. So class position, and we have to inherit the corresponding class model. Inside this, we only have a single property, title is equal to models dot cap field, and max length will be something 50. Okay, so here we have the position model, and here we have the employee model. For any model, there will be a primary key which is automatically created by the Django ORM itself. It will be ID. It will start from 1 and incremented by 1 upon new record insertion. It is managed by the Django ORM itself. Now we are going to specify the position property inside the employee model with this position table. For that, we can use the foreign key relation, foreign key, and first of all, we have to specify the model for foreign key, so which is position, and finally we have to specify this on delete is equal to models dot cascade. Since we have set on delete as cascade, whenever we delete a record from this position table, employee table records will also be deleted with that particular position ID. So here we have defined the model for this project. Now let's do the migration. For that, back to the terminal. First of all, we have to do this python manage.py, and then we have to execute this command make migrations, and then we have to provide the name of the app, which is employee underscore register. Hit enter. As a result of this make migrations command, you can see a new folder here, migrations. Inside that, you can see this Python file. Inside that, you can see the Python representation of modifications with respect to previous models. Now we have to execute another command, python manage.py, and then we have to execute this command sql migrate. Then we have to specify the name of this file as a result of this make migrations command. So it will be 001, and then provide the app name employee register. Hit enter. Sorry, here we have an incorrect order. First of all, we have to provide the name of the app, then after that we can provide the file migration name. Hit enter. As a result of the command execution, here you can see the corresponding SQL command to apply those modifications. So first of all, here we have the SQL query to create the position table, and then followed by the employee table also. Now in order to execute this SQL script, you just need to execute this command python manage.py, then migrate. Okay, so this is the final step for the migration. For default models, we just need to execute this command. When we create models, we have to execute these commands. First of all, make migrations, then SQL migrate, then followed by migrate. Now hit enter. Migration command is executed successfully. Let's check that. Refresh this tables node. We can see we have 2 extra tables, position table and employee table. First of all, we have the position table, then employee table. Both of these tables are empty for now. As we have discussed, you can see the automatically created primary key ID inside these 2 tables. Rest of the model properties are converted into column tables here. For the foreign key which we have mentioned here, position, we have position ID column. So inside this application we will have an employee form. For position we will have a drop down. Inside that position drop down we will display all of the positions from the position table here, and corresponding selected position ID will be saved inside this position ID column. Now back to the IDE. In order to implement all of the Django CRUD operations, we have to have view functions to handle each of the CRUD requests, which can be done inside this views by file here. First of all, I will define a view function to retrieve and display all of the employee records. So here is the view function employee list, and this view function has a single parameter request. For now, I will just add this return statement here. Like this, we need two more view functions. So let me copy paste this 2 times. And this second function will be employee form. Inside this view function, we will deal with get and post requests for insert and update operation. And here we have the final view function for deleting an employee record. Inside the employee form view function, we will deal with insert and update operation. And for delete operation, we have the final view function employee delete. Now let's configure routing for the application. For that, inside this project folder, you can see this urls.py file. There you can see this array URL patterns. Inside that, you can see this URL mapping for admin /. If you navigate inside this URL /admin, we will be redirected to login page. So all of these URLs which starts with admin / is handled inside the default application admin. Inside that we have the file urls.py. So all of the requests will be handled or configured or mapped inside this urls.py file. Like that, we have to configure routing for the employee register application. For that, we can do this path, and the path will be employee / and all of the requests which starts with employee / must be handled inside a file urls.py inside the app folder employee register. For now, we don't have any such file. So let's create the file here urls.py. Now in order to mention the newly created urls.py file, first of all we have to add this include import statement. Then we can do this include. Inside this we have to specify the namespace employee register dot urls. Now all of the requests which starts with employee / will be handled inside the newly created urls.py file here. And the code will be exactly similar to this parent urls.py file here. So let me copy all of these files and then I will paste that here. We don't need this admin import. For now, I will just add 2 routes, one for the form and one for the list of employees. So here is the routes. So in order to access this first route, we have to make the request into this URL localhost, then port number / employee, which is the primary route for the app. And in order to access this route here, we just need to do this employee / list. Okay, and when we make a request into this empty route here, we have to call this view function here employee form. So first of all, we will add the import statement for the view here. We have to import all of them from views. So everything from the view namespace is imported into the file here. Now we just need to do this views dot employee form, and for this list route here, I will call this employee list view function views dot employee list. That's it. Now let's update the view functions accordingly. In order to show employee form and employee list, we will be using Django templates. In order to work with templates in Django, first of all, we will create a templates folder inside the app folder. In this case, we have the app folder employee register. Inside that we have to create another folder with same name as that of the application, in this case employee register. So let's create those two files. Templates. Inside that we have to create another folder with the same name as that of the app, which is employee register. So in this application we will be creating 3 templates file. First of all, we will have the base HTML. Inside that we will have the basic HTML declaration, then HTML head and body part and etc. We will show the employee form inside this template file employee_form, and in order to show the table to list all of the inserted employees, we will use this file employee list.html. We will discuss how this parent and HTML templates works together. So first of all, let's create these files. First of all, we have the base.html file, and then we will have another file employee_form.html, and then we will have another file employee_list.html. Inside this base.html file we have to have the HTML declaration first of all. So here we have the HTML declaration, head and body part. Let me update this title. I will set it as employee register. First of all, inside this parent HTML file we have to provide a space where child templates can be rendered. For that we can make use of the block inside the template. So I will do this block content, and let's add an end for this block, end block content. Now inside the child template we can do this. First of all, we have to mention that this base HTML is the parent template for this template here. So we can do this extends, and let's specify the path of this base HTML employee_register /base.html. Now we have to create the same block that we have mentioned here. So let me copy these 2 lines here, then I will paste that here. Now inside this block we can add whatever HTML elements, and the same HTML elements will be rendered in place of this block in parent HTML. For now I will just add a paragraph here. For now I will add a sample text here. We will show Django form to implement CRUD operations. We have to do the same inside this list HTML also. So let me paste that here. Inside this template we will show a list of employees from the table. So here we have the parent HTML, and here we have the child templates. Now let's look how it can be displayed inside the application. First of all, we have the employee list. Inside that we will list this HTML employee_list. We can do this render. As a first parameter we can pass the request parameter. As a second parameter we will pass the HTML path. So it will be employee_register /employee_list.html. And in case of the employee form view function here, we want to show this HTML employee form. For that, let me copy this and we can paste that here. Instead of this list we have employee_form. Now let me save all of these modifications and let's try to access these 2 routes here, /employee/ with this URL mapping is used. Inside the view function we have rendered this HTML employee form. Now let's try to access this list route, employee/list. That's it. We will show the list of employee from the table. So this is how we can work with parent and child templates in Django applications. Now for this application development I will be using Bootstrap front-end style sheets. So go to the official website getbootstrap.com. In this application we will be using Bootstrap 4. Now click on this get started here. We have to add these CSS and JavaScript files. So let me copy this CSS reference back to the IDE. Now let's paste that here. Finally we have to copy paste the JavaScript reference also. Inside this application we will be using font awesome icons. So let's add corresponding CDN reference also. Font awesome CDN. Now go to this website here, cdnjs.com. Now let me copy this CSS reference for all.min.css. Now let's create a link for the CSS and let's paste the copied reference here. That's it. Now let's start designing this application with Bootstrap. So first of all, we will have this div with class container. Inside that we want to use the grid system. So div, so we will have call md10 and we need an offset of column 1, so offset md1. We want to set a top margin, so we can use this class margin top of the range 5. That's it. Now we want to show the entire application inside Jumbotron component inside the Bootstrap that you can see here. Let's search for Jumbotron. I will copy the first Jumbotron HTML and I will paste that here. First of all, we want to show the application heading. We can set it as employee register. And inside this paragraph, we will just show this Python Django project for implementing CRUD operations. Now I want to show the paragraph text in italic, so we can add this class font italic. So here we have the heading part of Jumbotron. Just below that we have the horizontal line. Below that we can show the body of Jumbotron. Actually we want to render child template HTML here. So I will move this block into that place. And we can paste that here. Now all of the child template will be rendered here. Let's check if it is working or not. Let me save all of this back to the application here. Let's reload this. Boom. So here we have the application title employee register Python Django project for implementing CRUD operations. Just below the horizontal line we have the HTML from child templates. We will show the list of employee from the table. Now let's try to access the route for the form. So here we have the paragraph from the corresponding template. Django form to implement CRUD operations. Now let's look how to design this Django form to implement CRUD operations. First of all, we have to create a model form class. For that, back to the IDE, let me create a new file for the form, forms.py. Inside that, let's create a class. I will name it as employee form. We want to inherit this class from model form. So first of all, we have to add the import statement from Django import forms. Now let's mention the base class here, forms.modelForms. Basically with this class employee form, we are going to design a form with required HTML controls. Actually, we already mentioned those properties here, full name, employee code, mobile and position. So we can reuse this class to create this model form class here. For that, we just need to mention this inner class meta, class meta, and here we just need to mention the model as the employee model that we have created here. For that, first of all, let's add the corresponding import statement from models import. Let's assign that here employee. Now if we want all of these properties as a field inside the form, here we can do this. fields is equal to underscore underscore all underscore underscore. Now let me save this, and back to the view function here. We are going to work with employee form, so we have to update this view function accordingly. First of all, we will create an object form. We will assign an instance of the model form that we have just created here. So let me copy this, and I will create an instance with that here. Now let's add the corresponding import statement from .forms import employee form. Now we have to pass this object form into this template. That we can do here. We will create a new object and we can pass that with this form. Now back to the HTML file here. Now in order to show form controls according to this model form class here, first of all let me remove this para from here, and then we can use the double curly syntax here. Inside that we just need to provide that form. Okay, let me save this, let me reload this. So that's it guys. Inside this form you can see the controls corresponding to the properties that we have inside this model here. You can also customize the model here. If you want to remove any of them, you can mention that using a tuple like this. For now I will provide the fields like this. First of all we will have the full name, then we will have the employee code, then mobile, and finally position. Save and then reload this. So you can see all of them as it is. Now I want to show this mobile before this EMP code. I will just move this before the EMP code. Let me save this. Let's reload this. As you can see, the order is changed. The Django framework will decide what type of form controls to be displayed for each of the properties that we have provided inside the model here. For full name, EMP code, and mobile, it shows this text box. Okay, and for this position we have a foreign key with this position table. So in that case it will show this drop down here. We can discuss how this position drop down is to be populated. For now let me inspect this HTML which is rendered as a result of the syntax here form. So right click, then inspect. As you can see here, for each property we have a label text box pair. So first of all we want to enclose these label text box pair inside a form control. I will do this. We will have this form tag, and with this form tag we will enclose this form syntax. With this form we want to post data into the server, so we can provide the method as post. Also I want to prevent from showing autocomplete from previously posted data, so we have to set this attribute autocomplete, and I will set it as off. As a security for this form we have to add the CSRF token, meaning outside the Django server anyone can make a post request. If anyone going to make a post request similar to this form here, they can also pretend to be an insider. In that way hackers or anyone can make problems inside the system. In order to avoid this problem we will use CSRF token, which is a unique value which is provided by the Django server itself. And when we make a post request we will append this same token to that posted form data. In that way Django server can identify whether this post request is from a trusted source or not. For that we just need to do this CSRF underscore token. Rest of the procedures will be handled by the Django framework itself. It will create the unique CSRF token while rendering this form, and when we post this form, same token will be appended to the form data. Sorry, we are not going to use the double curly brace. Instead we use the brace percentage symbol. Let me save this and back to the application. Let's reload this. Now let's inspect this. Here you can see a hidden field to store the CSRF token. When we post the form, this token will be sent to the server and the server will validate this token. Okay, that's all about the CSRF security. Now let's look how we can make this form more appealing. Of course, we can do that with Bootstrap frontend framework like we have done in previous to-do app. But if we are going to do that, we have to hard code each of these label text box pair instead of this single line here. So without hard coding, we can make this form more appealing using the frontend framework Bootstrap with the help of a PIP package called Crispy Forms. Okay, so first of all, let's install the package Crispy Forms. Let's open one more terminal here, and here is the corresponding command pip install Django -crispy -forms. Hit enter. Sorry, here we have a typo with Django. Let's update the command. So here we have successfully installed the package. Now we have to add the package inside the installed apps in settings.py file. So let's add that here, Crispy Forms. This package Crispy Forms is used to customize the forms or form controls using front-end style sheet like Bootstrap, Uniforms, then Foundation, etc. So we have to specify which front-end style sheet framework we are going to use. We can specify that here, crispy _template _pack. Currently we have the latest version of Bootstrap 4. So we can specify Bootstrap 4 here. In order to apply this Crispy Forms, you just need to do this. We will use the filter like this, crispy. In order to load the package into the template, we can do this, load crispy _forms _tags. Now let me save all of these modifications and back to the app here. Let's reload this. Boom. So this form is customized with Bootstrap style sheet. And you can see if you inspect this form control here, that you can see here the package is already added few Bootstrap classes into these form controls. Okay, now I want to change some of these label text here. This full name and employee code. In order to do that, we just have to update this form model class here. We can use these labels. Inside that, we can provide an object. First of all, we have full name, and I want to update the corresponding label text to full name. And after that, we have employee code. So we will do that here, and we want to show that like this, EMP code. Back to the website, reload this. So that's it. Here we have updated the label text. Now I want to make few more modifications here. Here we have a label text box pair vertically aligned like we have seen in normal Bootstrap forms. Instead of that, I want to show EMP code and position controls in a single line. So let's look how we can do that. Inside this HTML, instead of single line here, we have to do this forms.fullname. Now we want to apply the package Crispy Forms. So we can do this as _crispy _field. So it will show all of the controls required for the full name. Just below that, we have to show controls for mobile. So let me copy this and pasting here. Instead of full name, we have mobile. And we have to show remaining two controls in a single line. So we can use this Bootstrap grid system with this divs, raw div and with call md divs. So div call md 4. Let me copy this and pasting below that. 4 plus 8, in total we have 12 Bootstrap columns. And inside the first div here, we have to show the controls for EMP code. So let me copy this and pasting here. We have to do the same for the last field, position also. So let me copy this and pasting here. And this is for EMP code and this is for position. Let me save this back to the app. Let's look how it works. That's it. Here we have shown both of these controls in a single line. Now let's look how this position dropdown is populated. Currently inside this control we only have an empty label because we don't have any record inside the position table. Let's add few records inside this table here. Okay, finally we have to save this. If you execute this select star statement again, you should see all of those records. Now let's reload this page here. Inside this position dropdown, we have all of those 4 records that we have added here. But we have a problem. Instead of showing this position title, it is showing position object. In order to show those titles, we have to update the model for position. For that, we just need to define the function __str, which is the function for any Python class. So here it is, __str. For this, we will have the parameter self. Inside that, we just need to return this, return self.title. So whenever this position is retrieved, instead of showing the position object, it will show the title since we have this STR function here. Now let me save this back to the app, reload this. See, inside this position control, we have the position title. Often, instead of the sequences of dashes, I use select text. So let's look how we can change this first empty label text to select. Inside this model forms, we have to define the Python class function __init. So here it is, __init, and for this we have few parameters. First of all, we will have self parameter followed by arguments parameter with a single star, and then keyword arguments with double star. And inside this, first of all, we have to call the parent class constructor. So we can do this super. As a first parameter, we have to pass this employee form class itself. As a second parameter, we can pass self. From that, we will call the __init function. Into that, we just need to pass these 2 parameters for arguments. So let me copy this. I'm doing this by just selecting the text, and then I will hold the control, then I will drag the text. That's it. Now just below that, we can do the customization. Self.fields, and here we can specify the control position, and we want to change the empty label text. So empty _label is equal to select. Let me save all of these modifications back to the app, reload this. Now let's add a submit button. So back to the HTML, we will have this button of the type submit. We have to apply few Bootstrap classes, btn, then btn-success, and this button text will be submit. Now inside this button, I want to show the phone awesome icon. So go to this website, phoneawesome.com/icons. Usually for submit button, I will search for save icons. For a change, I will look for database icons, and I will select this, and let's copy the corresponding icon HTML, and I will paste that here inside the button. Let me save this back to the app, reload this. We will customize this button later. For now, keep it as it is. Now let's talk about the Django form validation here. All of these control labels ends with suffix asterisk marks. It indicates all of these controls or fields are mandatory to submit this form. For example, if you submit this, we can see this validation error. Please fill out this field. If you want to exclude any of these fields from this required validation, inside this __init function, we can do this self.fields, For now we have emp code required, and I will set it as false. Let me save this, reload this. That's it. We have removed the required validation from this control emp code. Now let's talk about form submission. See, inside this form attribute action, we have not yet provided a URL to submit this form. If we keep this action URL as empty, this form will be submitted to the same URL from which we have loaded this form. In this case, we have retrieved this form from this URL /employee. So here is the view function corresponding to the URL. So the same form will be posted to this URL here. So we have to deal both get and post requests inside this same view function. For that, I will do this. We will have this if clause, and then we can check whether we have a get or post request by checking this attribute method of request parameter. If it is equal to get, we will do these operations. So if it is a get request, we have to execute these two lines. So let's add the corresponding indentation. Now we have to deal with the else part. If it is a post request, we have to save the post data that we have sent from this form here. For that, we will do the same. We will create an instance of employee form. So let me copy this. So hold Control, then drag. That's it. Now into this class instance, we have to provide the form data that we can retrieve from this request parameter dot post dictionary. Finally, we have to save the records. Before that, let's check whether this form is valid or not. We can do that by calling this function isValid. Okay, if it is valid, we can call the save function from the object form. After the save operation, we have to redirect the user into the route for showing all of the employee records that we have inserted so far. We will list all of the employees inside this route list /. So we can redirect the user here, return redirect function can be called. In order to use this function, we have to inherit that from Django shortcuts redirect. Now let's provide the route employee /list. Let me save all of these modifications here and back to the app. Now let's insert a new employee, James Thomas. Mobile number will be 555 1234. EMP code will be something JT. Then position will be senior developer. Submit the form. Since we are redirected to employee /list, hope we have saved the record successfully. Let's check that inside the table employee. Let's execute this select star statement. Boom. So here we have the newly inserted employee record for James Thomas. All of the details are saved as per the form data. Inside this position ID, you can see the ID corresponding to the selected position here. We have selected the senior developer, so corresponding ID 2 is saved inside the column. Now back to the application. After a successful insert operation, the user will be redirected to this route employee /list. So here we have to list all of the employees that we have inserted so far. So let's look how we can do that. As you know, when this route is navigated, this view function employee list is invoked. So here we have to return all of those inserted records. We can do this. First of all, we have to create an object context which is to be passed as a third parameter here, context. And inside this object, we have to pass list of employees. So I will pass like this employee underscore list. And here we have to assign the list of employees that we have inserted. We can make use of this model class employee here. So first of all, let's import that here. From dot models, we have to import employee class. Here we just need to do this employee dot objects dot all function can be called. So inside this property employee underscore list, we will have all of the records that we have inserted into employee table. And we have said that inside this context variable, the same is passed as a third parameter here. Now we have to render those records inside this HTML file employee list. So instead of this paragraph, we need a table, and let's add few classes from Bootstrap, table, then table borderless. We don't need a border for this, so we'll have this class borderless, table borderless. Inside that, let's add the t-head part. In order to add a bottom border, we have to add this class border dash bottom, and we have to highlight the text inside this t-head, so we have to add this class font weight bold. Now let's add the tr element. Now let's add the header columns. First of all, we have full name, mobile number, and then we have position. So here we have the t-head part. Now let's add the t-body. Here we have to show all of the employees from this table here. For that, we can make use of the for loop syntax. So here it is. For each employee record inside the list, employee underscore list, we have passed this list inside this view here, employee underscore list. Let's add an end for this for loop, and for each employee record, we have to add a single tr element. Inside the first column, we have to show the full name, so we can do this employee dot full name, and then we have mobile number, and finally we have the position. Now let me save all of these modifications here and back to the app. Let's reload this. Something went wrong, so back to the application. In order to see the exact error, back to the terminal where we ran our server. So here it is. Here we have the error. Here we have a typo related to equal to symbol. Instead of equal symbol, we need to use colon. Let me save this and back to the terminal. Let's check whether we have any error left. So that's it. Back to the application. Reload this. Boom. So here we have shown the employee record that we have just inserted. So far we have implemented Django CRUD operations insert and retrieve. Now let's look how we can implement update or edit operation. For that, first of all, we will add a button for each row here. When user click on the button, corresponding record details will be populated inside the form. And from there onwards, user can make the changes and submit the form. So let's look how we can use the same form for update operation also. So back to the list HTML here. First of all, we will add a column for actions. So here we keep it as empty, and inside this body we have to add a td with required edit and delete operations. For now, let's add a button for edit operation. So here we have the anchor element, and for this we have to add few classes from Bootstrap, btn, then text hyphen secondary. In order to remove horizontal padding, we can use this class px0. Inside this button, we want to show a font awesome icon. So here is the I tag with corresponding classes far, then far edit. To enlarge this button, we can add this far lg class also. Back to the application, let's reload this. So here we have the button. Now inside the anchor href attribute, we have to provide the corresponding route. For now, we have only two routes, one for the insert operation, and here is the list route to display all of the inserted records. Now for update operation, we have to add one more route. We can use this same route with one modification. So let me copy this and pasting here. We only have to append id into this URL. So we can do this int, here is the id parameter id. Okay, we will call the same function employee form. We will discuss how we can handle both insert and update operation inside this view function. An href attribute for this edit operation here. In order to do that, it would be better to provide a third argument, name is equal to employee update. Now we can provide the URL like this, URL, and here we have to provide the name of the URL, and which is employee update. For this route we have a parameter id. So we can pass that here after this route name, and we can access the id using this employee here. So employee dot id. So it would be helpful to provide a name for each route so that we can easily provide the corresponding URL for href attribute like this. So we don't have to change the href attribute value since we use URL name here instead of URL path. So it would be better to set name for each of the URL here. So name is equal to employee insert, and for this list URL, name is equal to employee list. If you are confused, this first route here is for the get and post request for insert operation, and this one for get and post request for update operation. And this final list route is for the get request to retrieve and display all records. Here we have the update route. We will call the same view function employee form. Inside this view function, we already implemented get and post request for insert operation. Now let's do the get and post request for update operation. Get request will be handled inside this if clause here, and post request will be handled inside this else block here. First of all, in order to accommodate update operation inside this view function, we have to add this parameter, URL parameter id. So here is the id. By default, I will set it as 0. So in case of insert operation, we have not provided an id. So in that case, id will be 0. Okay. Otherwise, if the id property is not 0, then the request will be related to update operation. Inside this if clause, we will deal with get request, and inside this else block, we will deal with post request. Inside this get request, in order to identify whether we have an insert or update operation, we will add one more if clause. If the id is equal to 0, then we can say we have an insert operation. Now let's add the indentation here. If it is an update operation, we have to deal that inside this else block here. First of all, we have to retrieve the details of employee using the given id. For that, we can do this employee is equal to, and here we have the employee model. From that, we can retrieve the corresponding record with given id like this. Objects dot get function can be called. We have to filter the record with the primary key. So primary key is equal to id. We will retrieve the corresponding record into this employee object here. Now we have to create an object of model form, and we have to populate this record inside that. So here is the method form is equal to employee form, and inside this constructor we have to set this. For that, we can do this instance is equal to employee. That's it. So with this if else block here, we will populate the object form. If it is an insert operation, we will have an empty form. If it is an update operation, we will populate the form with corresponding record details. And finally, with this return statement, we will return the form object. Based on that, this form is rendered. In case of update operation, corresponding populated value will be shown inside the controls. So let's look if it is working or not. So first of all, we have to save all of the modifications and back to the application. Let's reload this. Now click on this pencil icon here. Boom. So here we have shown the form by populating corresponding employee details. And you can see the URL here, employee/1. So we have populated employee with ID 1 inside this form here. Now user can make the required changes inside the form and they can submit the form also. And this form will be submitted to the same URL here since we have kept the action as empty. So inside this same view function, we have to handle the post request for update operation. Post request will be handled inside this else part here, and we can decide whether we have an insert or update operation using this if clause here. If id is equal to 0, we can say this is an insert operation, otherwise it would be an update operation. Now let's add the intent here. Inside this else block, we have to deal with update operation. So first of all, we have to retrieve the current details of employee from database. For that, we can copy paste this line here. So hold Control, then drag that here. That's it. And also finally, we have to create the form model object like we have created here. So form is equal to employee form. As the first parameter, we have to pass the data from the form here. That we can retrieve like this. Request.post dictionary can be passed here. As a second parameter, we can pass the employee object here. So inside this object, we have the details from the database. So inside this object, we have the data from DB, and which is to be updated with the data from this object. And these two lines are common for both insert and update operation. First of all, we will validate the form. If the validation is successful, we will submit the operation, whether it is insert or update. And finally, we will be redirected to this route employee/list. Sorry, we have to pass this employee as an instance. So instance is equal to employee. Now let me save all of these modifications. So here we have the form which is to be updated. You can see the same employee details inside this employee table here. Now let's update this employee code to something JTS. And then I will change this position to junior developer. Let's submit this record. So here we have redirected to employee list route, and here you can see the position change from senior developer to junior developer. Now you can check the same inside this table here. Let's execute the select star statement again. So here we have updated the employee code and we have updated the position ID to 1. Previously it was 2 for senior developer and 1 for junior developer. Finally, we have to implement delete operation. Before that, let me add a navigation from this list route to form route and then form route to list route also. So inside this action column header, I will add a button for navigation to form route. So back to the HTML here. So here we have the anchor element with few bootstrap classes, btn, then btn, outline, success, and here we have to provide the URL like we have done here. So let me copy this. Here we have to provide the corresponding URL name. Inside this href attribute, we have to provide the URL for the form. So here it is. Corresponding URL name is employee insert. So instead of update, we have insert. You don't have to provide the employee ID here. Now inside this anchor element, we have to add the phone awesome icon. So here is the I tag with classes first, then for -+. And here is the anchor element text, add new. Back to the app, reload this. So here is the button. If you click on this button, we can navigate the form route. Now from this form, we have to navigate list. Open corresponding HTML, form HTML, and here is the button. So first of all, I'm going to add a div with class row. Here we are going to use the Bootstrap grid system called MD8. Into that, we can move this submit button. Along with these classes, we have to add few more classes, btn block, so that this button will take the enter space allotted inside this column. And finally, in order to enlarge this button, we can add this class btn lg. Now let's add the second div called md4. So we need an anchor element with classes btn, then btn secondary. In order to take the enter column, we can add this class btn block, and in order to enlarge this button, we can use this class btn lg. Inside this href attribute, we have to provide the corresponding URL. So here it is, list / corresponding name is employee list. So we can do this, employee underscore list. Also, we have to provide this tag URL here. Inside this, we will have a font awesome icon with corresponding classes, then for dash string. After that, we will show this text back to list. Let me save this, back to the app, reload this. So here we have the submit button along with the navigation to list route. If you click on this back to list, here we are inside the list route. So we can navigate back and forth. Now finally, let's implement the final Django CRUD operation delete. For that, back to the list HTML here. Along with this element, we will have a form. Because for delete operation, post request is most appropriate. So we can make the post request for delete operation using a form. So here is the form, and inside this action we have to provide the corresponding URL. So first of all, let's create an URL for delete operation. So path, and the path will be delete / and here we have to provide the ID int ID. I hope we already created a dummy view function for delete operation, employee delete. So we can mention that here, views dot employee delete. Now let's provide the name for this URL. Name is equal to employee underscore delete. Now we can use this URL inside this action attribute. So URL employee underscore delete, and here we have to provide the ID that we can access from the employee object here, employee.id, and here we have to set the method as post. Inside this form we only have a single submit button, so button of the type submit. For this button we only have a single Bootstrap class btn. Inside this button we will have a font awesome icon. Let's add the corresponding classes for, then for trash alt. In order to enlarge this button, we can add this for lg class, and then we can change the color with. And finally, in order to align this button to right, we can use this class float -right. So that's it. Now let's update the corresponding view function. Currently we have this dummy function employee delete. Now let's update the corresponding view function employee delete here. As you can see, for this delete URL we have a single parameter ID. So we have to add that parameter inside this function also, ID. Inside this function we just need to delete the employee with given ID. So first of all, we will retrieve the record with given ID. We have done the same with this line, so let me copy this. Now we can delete that by just calling the function delete from this employee object. Delete. And finally, we have to redirect to the list route. So let me copy this. Okay, let me save all of these modifications and back to the application here. Sorry, we have an alignment issue here. So back to the HTML list. For the inline proper alignment of this form, we can add the Bootstrap class here. Class is equal to d_inline. This class will set display as inline. Let me save this. Let's reload this. That's it. Now if you click on this trash icon, corresponding record will be deleted. Sorry, here we have a problem with CSRF token. We forgot to add the token inside this form. So let's add the corresponding token CSRF underscore token. We have to add this token to every Django form. Save, then back to the application. Now let's try to delete this record again. Boom. So here we have deleted the corresponding record. You can see the same inside this table also. Let's execute the select star statement. That's it. We have deleted the corresponding record from our table also. If you want to add new records, you can use this add new button here. After the form submission, we will be redirected to this list route here. Here we will show all of the records that we have inserted so far. So that's it guys. In this Python Django tutorial, we have discussed complete full CRUD operations with PostgresDB. You can download this same project from the GitHub link given below in video description. In order to make more helpful and quality tutorials, you can also support me through PayPal donation. I have given the donation link in first comment and inside the video description also. If you found this video helpful, please like and share this video with your friends and colleagues so that they can benefit from this. Have a nice day. Bye.